Hello, this is Jean from Secretaire. I'm talking about the Brother. I've got the STX 1200. I am a paper crafter and I generally do journaling crafting, so that's what I use my Brother for most. I do hear a lot of people saying, I've had my Brother in the box for a year, I'm too scared to use it, what can the Brother do, etc, etc. Lots of manufacturers promise things that the machine can do, but you need to add on. So yes, the Brother can do embossing and rhinestoning, but those are extra kits. So straight out the box, what can you do with your Brother? You get your machine, you get two mats. They are different colors. The blue one is a low tack mat and the purple one is a standard tack mat. Tack is the stickiness. So if I were to lift this, you can hear that my fingers give a specific sound of stickiness. The low tack, far less so. You get two blades. One is the black blade, as I call it, and the brown blade. You'll also see this referred to as a beige blade. This is your general cutting blade, anything from 0.1 of a millimeter, so a sheet of paper, to up to 3, leather, balsa wood, chipboard, those sort of things. And this is the thin fabric blade. Don't let the fabric put you off. You can also cut thin papers and things with it, so you won't be stuck with a blade that you never use. You also get a pen holder, so there's no blade in there, it's just a holder. And with that you get the small Brother pens, so various colors. These are the permanent ink ones, and the two with the stripe are washable, removable ink. So if you were doing patterns or seam allowances, the quilters, things like that, you would use the washable inks. You get some tools, a little spatula lifty tool and a stylus, so you can work on your touch screen. Tool holders go into here. It's a very quick pop in and engage, and you lift the lever to take it out and switch. There you go. That is an important little toggle. Sometimes it feels like it's in. Make sure that your blade is properly sitting, because that impacts cutting. And then the Brother has two little compartments that flip up, so you can store your extra things, and then the whole thing folds out. What you need to check with your Brother, and when you are planning to get one, your mat sits here, your mat feeds through the machine, and the mat feeds out to about there again. So it is quite a wide bit of desk space. So make that measurement and make sure you've got space for it. So once it's folded, it's compact, but in use is quite a wide area. In the box, in addition to the instructions and a test sheet of paper, there is also fabric stiffening sheet, and it's like an iron-on backing for applique fabrics. So if you are a fabric crafter, these would be items of importance to you. I'm sure there will be demonstrators in the setup today showing fabric cutting. I'm filming my Brother as part of Kelly Roche Leander Sutherland's Battle of the Machines. So you'll see in the segment or in the series some Cricut users, some Silhouette, some other cutting machines. The Brother, the function of this Brother specifically was the fact that it auto-detects thickness. So it's fully automated. It decides cutting depth and cutting speed and things. The thing to remember with that is it can still be manually overridden by the user. So if you are doing test cuts on your machine, a test cut is, it cuts a tiny little triangle. You'll see I've got some triangles stuck down here, just to show you how the cut will be. And those are very important things. Button on the screen, you can touch that with your stylus for test cut, and that then shows you how your machine will cut. These machines, as is, unpacked out of the box, can be used fully. You don't need any computer knowledge, you don't need a computer program. The brothers do work with Canvas. Canvas Workspace is their design function, but if you are computer illiterate, there are very many, I use my finger, but you can also, very many patterns and designs, and you can really click through and click through and click through. Lots of bits and pieces to cut. Sometimes the way they put them, it's not evident what you'll find under the specific design, but look through your machine, play through with your machine, and you'll get an idea. In order for your machine to give you the best use and the best functions, you need to, the pairing of the mat versus the blade, not very many options, 2 blades, 2 mats, and it's trial and error. For general cutting, black blade, purple mat. As I said, make sure the blade gets positioned well and tightly, so the little lever must snap down. The mat feeding, you can hear that's the tack. Mat feeding is one button. The other care that you can take is the casing of the blade. That's a very, very sharp blade, but that screws off. Just give it a blow, look at it, knock out some debris every now and again. That keeps your blades working well. And I think the thing that is the most contentious issue is sticking down your workpiece. So tackiness of mats, care of mats is a brother issue. This is my top tip. It's a brayer. These are about 80 Rand at P&A. They're not brand name or anything. And if your workpiece sticks down well, your cut will almost certainly succeed. With a test cut, so that you can see how your functions are going. Every machine cuts differently. If there's the slightest little wobble, the auto detect will think that the fabric is higher. So really make sure your workpiece is stuck down as best you can, with the tack, with the brayer, and if needs be with tape, washi tape or masking tape, something like that. The best way is to care for your mats and to keep your mats tacky is a general wipe down with a baby wipe. Alcohol-free baby wipes work best because otherwise you lift the glue. And it's not a scrub, it's a gentle wipe. It sort of revives the tack. That can be done after most days of cutting. The next thing is a soak with sunlight liquid, not boiling water, hot water, and with soaking it, no rubbing or anything, the little fine filaments and paper bits and debris will lift out of the mat, and that'll return the tackiness. There comes a time in the brother mat's life where it is not sticky anymore, and no amount of reconditioning or care or washing can fix that, and the best is just to re-stick it. It's not a difficult process, it's not an expensive process, and a properly sticking workpiece makes all the difference when you cut. This mat has been stripped. I stripped it using acetone, that's pure acetone, not nail polish remover, hardcore stuff. If you don't like using the chemicals, you can also use something like a lavender essential oil, much slower going, but it does work. And you just wipe and you'll see the glue comes off in little globs until there's no tack left. Next is to mask off the edges. So just follow the black line. I use painter's tape. so that the glue doesn't go where you don't cut, and also that the machine doesn't get damaged, because the machine obviously expects glue on the cutting surface. The glue that I'm using today is a zig glue. It's a two-way glue, which means it's repositionable. If you stick something on it while it's wet, it'll stick. If you let it dry and stick something on it after the fact, it's like post-it note glue, if I can call it that. I have used both of these glues. It's a dollar stencil glue and a Tombow, which is also the green one, the repositionable one. There's a video on the Tombow one. The dollar stencil glue is finicky. You have to dilute it massively, and the stick is unpredictable. This, as an affordable and a readily obtainable resticking glue, very good. Please don't be scared of resticking your mat. Please don't delay in resticking your mat, because the frustration with having workpieces that slip far outweighs the drying time and the application time of just resticking your mat. For very long, I sort of balked at resticking, because the internet users says they never restick their mats, and they're still using the same Brother mat 5 years down the line and whatever, and then you feel like you're doing something wrong. But you need to make your machine work for you. Also, if you have the low-tack mat, you never use it, by resticking it, so stripping it and resticking it, you can end up with a super tacky mat and a standard tack mat. You know what you cut, so make your machine work for you. The application on the zig is quite straightforward. Blue is wet and clear is dry, so we want it to become clear. It's quite handy that you can see where you've applied it. I unfortunately could not get the broad tip, so I've got the pin tip, which is going to take long. A little goes a long way, and you can spread it across with any sort of scrapery thing. An old credit card works fine. There are various tutorials to get an even spread, so you can go one way, then the other way, then edgeways. As you go and it gets tacky, you can also feel how tacky you want it. So I have a very, very tacky mat, so this one I would want to be an intermediate tack. I would rather re-tack more often than end up with a very tacky mat that then tears my material. I'm going to lift the mat, so that's just squishing the pen. You can see that the glue is blue, and then you can drag it across. So actually very little of the glue already gives you a lot to work with. It's a floating motion, it's not a scraping motion, because you want the glue to spread evenly but not to remove the glue again. As a journaler and scrapbooker, my starting point is very often 12 by 12, 30 by 30 sheets. So I like giving the corners a bit of extra stick, because that's where I find product lifts. So you can see the glue's there, and it's just just going over lightly, you should be able to hear it's already started to dry, and it's already, I'd say, light tack, same as a light tack mat. So definitely a very easy way, and the stick is a very non-sticky stick, even though it's sticky. So having tried these three, I can definitely say that the least messy is the zig. The better stick, I think, quicker, better stick is the green Tombow, and then if you probably best for budget would be the dollar, because you can dilute it, and all of these come in at about the same price. I mean, this is just over 40 Rand, so, but you can dilute it, so you obviously get a lot more. I've cleaned dollar stencil glue off one of my mats that I resticked, and it's tricky to clean off. So having now tried three, I'm actually gonna discount the dollar or stencil glue. I don't know if there's a better stencil glue, but specifically that brand With other options, these two would be better. The zig is actually drying so quickly that if you were cutting on a certain day, you didn't want to strip, but you saw a spot on your mat, for example, lifting or whatever, this would be a very good quick fix also. I've put the zigged mat to one side. This is the mat that I stuck down. Can you hear that? I mean, I think that won't even fall down. No, that's a credit card and it sticks. So this was stuck. This was re-tacked with the Tombow. If you find that you've over-tacked your mat, towel, like a fluffy, and just go over it a couple of times, a lot of the tack gets lifted or gets dulled. So there's really no need to be scared about tacking your mats and tacking them to suit you. So I've actually just resorted, I've taken everything apart, so the little tube is open now, and then this is my second pass because I'm not happy with the tack, and then you can spread. I am working on my Teflon mat because this is obviously sticky, and then that's when the squeegee comes in to just give it an even coating, but at the same time a credit card works just as well. This is the benefit of the zig, that it's coloured so you can see where you've worked. When you get your machine, you're going to have to play with it. It's something new. You need to practice anything new. This is standard, basic, it's double-sided scrapbook paper. And just give it a go with the cut. If you are cutting specialist materials, I'm going to be showcasing acetate, vintage paper, wallpaper, you'll see leather being cut, wood, vinyl, and you find a setting that works for you, make a note of it. It saves you some time and energy. I'm not going into the design space, fussy cutting, how to make a machine talk to your computer. That is sort of, shall we say, second level, but just going ping, ping, ping with your stylus or your finger on the screen with what comes in the box, you can get tremendously far on the Brother. I've selected one of the standard designs here. I haven't changed the sizing. The sizing and everything can be changed here. There's a little spanner button to show you where you are cutting, etc., etc. This is going to be a full page cut. It then shows you what is being cut. When you get to this stage, you can still edit it, so it can be adjusted, made smaller, made bigger, etc., etc. You can switch it that it draws rather than cuts. Obviously, if you were drawing, this would not be a cut blade, but a draw blade. So what I'm showing is straight out the box. This is a 9-minute cut. The video will be sped up. There we go. A lot of, there you can see it's doing depth testing. And again. And then it starts cutting. My workpiece is stuck down very well because the mat's in good condition and I've used the brayer. So those are very important things. I'm not doing a test cut because I know the pattern, I know the blade, I know the paper. But if you didn't, you would do a test cut and it would give you a tiny little triangle. And then you can see if it gives you a jagged cut, if it doesn't cut deep enough, if it cuts too deeply. That's when you can start doing a manual override if necessary. Very, very, very seldom do I need to do manual overrides, occasionally with some of the more specialist vinyls. But for general crafting, for easy crafting, and for people who are less comfortable with technology and with designing and with making their own things, this is very much a plug and play machine. Keep an eye on your workpiece, see that it doesn't lift, see that the blade is, sometimes it's never happened to me that maybe comes out the casing or has, something's torn or whatever. There's a pause button on the console. Hit the pause button, the machine then gives you options to unload the mat or unload the workpiece or just to have a look at what's going on, and then you are safe. If you are cutting expensive paper or you are cutting something that you only have one of, you absolutely need to do the test cut. And the test cut, it's 0.5 centimeter in a little corner. You can set where on the workpiece a test cut gets done. So it's a 1 minute extra step, but it saves a lot of frustration. When you get to the point that you feel comfortable starting to use Canvas Workspace, the Canvas Workspace has a whole lot of free designs on it as well, and they change seasonally. So there would be Easter ones, there would be Mother's Day ones, there's always birthday, Christmas, new ones get added, and the library is quite big. And sometimes what I find is it'll be a birthday card with butterflies. I don't necessarily want to make a birthday card, but the butterflies, that bit of the design is a good design. I just delete the rest and use the bits that I want. So really, without having to design items and without having to think too much and without being overwhelmed, there are a lot of beautiful and functional things to cut, specifically for journalers: tags, pockets, folders, words, little die cut type things, little images, and that really works well. So that is the design done. I'm going to lift it. When you lift a workpiece, it's better to fold your mat slightly and then pull it off. There's quite a bit of intricate details in this, so don't rip it. But you can hear there's a lot of stick on my mat, a little tack coming up. So I just want to make sure it focuses. The cuts are clean. There's no jagged edges. You can almost use this as a mask, a stencil. There's no tearing. There's no lifting. And that is just pressing play. So this is now the next step. You can unload your mat, so that's an easy. Close that. Move that to one side. This is a big design. I specifically did it as a big design for the camera and for showing on the camera. Because the workpiece was well attached, obviously I need to take care to not rip or damage it when you take it off. So it's a lifting with a spatula, lifting, teasing, and then rolling the mat if necessary. So there we go. You can see there's a whole lot of debris on the mat, which is the cut out pieces. When I lifted it, I tore it. That's not the machine, that's me. And this blade is over a year old, and it cuts cuts almost daily, and it cuts various materials. So straight cuts, curvy cuts, round cuts. Beautiful. Okay. What I want to say is the Canvas software is free, and there's no cost involved. There's a downloadable version, so it stays on your PC, and there is an online version, and then this machine is also Wi-Fi enabled, so you can send things from your computer and from Design Space directly to the machine. There's no need for cables, so the only cable that you would need is the power cable. I hope that gives a general overview of what you expect from your Brother out the box, and what you can do by merely plugging it in, sticking some paper on your mats, and giving it a go. Don't be scared. Make your machine work for you. And sometimes you do make mistakes, and sometimes the machine doesn't do what you thought it would do, and then you make a note of that and you move on. The next thing is scraping some of this off. Sometimes new users see this happening. It's cut through my mat. This does happen. You get tiny little scoring marks. You can see the mat at the back is still intact, so it's not that the mat is getting damaged. Do you see the circles on my mat? Those were some of my earliest cuts. And if you see that actually new blades perhaps cut much deeper or much better, if you don't like the way that it cuts, you can reduce the pressure. Do a test cut. If it still cuts through, then cut on the slightly lighter pressure to reduce the scoring on the mat, but the actual score marks does not interfere with the way the mat functions at all. You'll hear my voice in some more segments, cutting some specific material and talking about what to look out for, and also going into detail on how to change settings and how a test cut looks. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.